The transport shuttle landed on Prime with a loud hiss. Steam poured from its engines as the doors slowly opened. Inside the shuttle, a young woman stood up from her seat and grabbed her bag. Her name was Park, and she was the first human to ever set foot in the Galactic Military Academy. The academy was famous across the galaxy. It trained the best soldiers from hundreds of different planets. Warriors came here to become legends. Some species had claws that could cut through metal. Others had skin harder than stone. A few could control minds with just a thought. They were all dangerous. They were all proud. And they all looked down at the small human walking through the main gate. Was not tall. She stood at about 170 centimeters, which was short compared to most aliens here. Her black hair was tied back in a simple bun. Her eyes were dark and calm. She wore a plain gray uniform and carried only one bag. Nothing about her looked special or threatening. The aliens watched her walk past them. They whispered to each other in many different languages, but their translators made sure everyone understood. Is that really a human? She looks so weak. No claws, no armor on her skin. How did her species even survive? This must be some kind of joke. She will not last 1 week here. Heard all of it, her face showed nothing. She kept walking. The academy director was a massive creature called. He belonged to a species called the. They were like walking tanks, covered in thick gray armor plates that grew from their own bodies. Was old and had many scars on his face from countless battles. He sat behind a large desk and looked at the human standing before him. Park, he read from her file. First human accepted to this academy. Your planet only joined our coalition 1 year ago. Tell me, why should I believe you belong here? Met his eyes without fear. I was trained for 8 years in my planet's military. I am here to learn and to serve. Made a sound like rocks grinding together. It was his way of laughing. Your file says you are a close combat specialist, but you have no natural weapons, no special abilities. What can you possibly do against students who have been bred for war since birth? I can adapt, said simply. Stared at her for a long moment, then he pressed a button on his desk. You will stay in Barracks 12, report there now. A guard led her through the academy's long halls. Noticed that Barracks 12 was far from the main buildings. The walls were older here. The lights flickered sometimes. This was clearly not where they put important students. The barracks was a large room filled with beds. About 20 aliens already lived there. Most of them were from species that the academy considered weak or unimportant. They looked at with curiosity but also with worry. They knew what it meant to be sent here. Found an empty bed in the corner and started to unpack her things. She moved slowly and carefully, placing each item in its proper place. She had learned long ago that staying calm was the most important skill a soldier could have. Human. The voice came from across the room, turned to see a creature walking toward her. He was tall and thin with 4 arms and 4 eyes. His skin was a dark purple color and his fingers ended in sharp claws. This was a species known for being fast and deadly. His name was. Behind stood 2 soldiers. They were younger than Director but just as big. Their names were and. Together, the 3 of them blocked the only door out of the room. You are in my barracks now, said. His voice sounded wet like he was speaking through water. That means you follow my rules. Every new arrival learns this lesson. The other aliens in the room quickly moved away. They pressed themselves against the walls, trying to be invisible. They had seen this happen before. They knew what came next. Stopped unpacking. She turned to face the 3 aliens completely. Her hands hung loose at her sides. Her breathing stayed slow and even. What are your rules? She asked. Smiled, showing rows of small, sharp teeth. Rule 1, you give me half of everything you own. Rule 2, you do whatever I tell you. Rule 3, you never look me in the eyes. He stepped closer. You just broke Rule 3. And if I do not follow these rules? One of them laughed. The sound was deep and ugly. Then we teach you respect, we teach it to everyone. Some learn fast, some learn slow, but everyone learns. Looked at each of them in turn, with his 4 clawed hands, and with their massive armored bodies. 3 predators who had probably never lost a fight in their lives. 3 aliens who saw her as nothing more than easy prey. She thought about her training back on Earth. She thought about the years of learning how to fight against enemies bigger and stronger than herself. She thought about what her instructor had told her on her last day. Out there, they will underestimate you. They will think you are weak because you are human. Let them think that, and then show them what humans can do. Smiled. It was a small smile that did not reach her eyes. "Let me ask you something first," she said. Her voice was soft and calm, like she was asking about the weather. "Do you all want this smoke?" The phrase made no sense in the galactic common language. There was no direct translation, but the meaning was clear from her tone, from her stance, from the look in her eyes. She was not afraid. She was not going to run. She was asking them if they really wanted to fight her. His 4 eyes blinked in confusion for just a moment. Then his smile returned, wider and more cruel than before. "The human thinks she is brave," he said. "How sweet, how stupid." He raised his clawed hands and moved toward her. The other aliens in the room held their breath. They expected to see blood. They expected to hear screams. They expected to watch another newcomer learn their place through pain and humiliation. They were about to see something very different. Shifted her weight slightly. Her eyes tracked all 3 enemies at once. Her heart rate stayed perfectly steady. In her mind, she was already calculating distances, speeds, and weak points. Back on Earth, humans had a saying: "It is not the size of the dog in the fight, it is the size of the fight in the dog." These aliens were about to learn what that meant. Moved first. His species was famous for being fast. His 4 arms spread wide as he jumped toward, claws reaching for her throat, behind him, and moved to circle around her. They had done this many times before. They knew how to trap their prey. But did something unexpected. She did not step back. She did not try to run. Instead, she stepped forward directly into his attack. The move surprised him. His claws sliced through empty air where her head should have been. Before he could adjust, her hand caught his wrist. She pulled hard, using his own speed against him. Flew past her and crashed directly into who was running up behind her. The 2 aliens fell to the ground in a tangled mess of arms and legs. Was still coming. He was slower than but much bigger. His armored fist swung down like a hammer, aiming to crush her skull, ducked under the blow and moved inside his reach. She was so close now that he could not hit her properly. Her hands moved in a blur. She struck 3 spots on his body in less than 1 second. These were not random hits. Back on Earth, human doctors had studied alien biology for years. They had learned where the weak points were. They had shared this information with their soldiers. His eyes went wide. His whole body suddenly felt numb. His legs stopped working. He fell forward and hit the floor with a sound like thunder. The other aliens in the room gasped. They had never seen a taken down so easily. Was one of the strongest students in the barracks. He weighed more than 300 kilograms, and this small human had dropped him in 2 seconds. Pushed himself up from the floor. His 4 eyes burned with rage. No one had ever treated him like this. He pulled 2 long knives from his belt, one in each of his upper hands. His lower hands grew more claws, sharper than before. "You got lucky," he hissed. "That will not happen again." He attacked with everything he had. His blades moved so fast that they looked like silver lightning. In 4 seconds, he struck 17 times. Any other opponent would have been cut into pieces. Blocked 14 of the strikes with her bare forearms. She dodged 2 more by moving her body just enough to let the blades pass by. The last strike caught her arm, leaving a shallow cut that bled red. But she did not stop. She did not slow down. The moment his attack ended, she grabbed his leading arm with both hands. She twisted her whole body, putting all her weight into the motion. There was a series of loud popping sounds as 3 joints in his arm broke at the same time. Screamed. The sound was high and terrible, filled with pain and shock. Before he could scream again, his elbow slammed into his temple. His eyes rolled back, and he dropped to the ground like a puppet with cut strings. Now only remained standing. He had finally untangled himself and was staring at the human with something new in his eyes. It was not just anger anymore. There was fear mixed in there too. "What are you?" he growled. Wiped the blood from her arm. The cut was not deep. She had received much worse during her training on Earth. "I am just a soldier," she said, "same as you." Roared and charged. He was the biggest of the 3, nearly 2.5 meters tall. His armored body had never been broken by any weapon in the academy. He was like a living tank, and he was running straight at her at full speed. Waited. She stood completely still as hundreds of kilograms of angry came closer and closer. At the last possible moment, she dropped to the floor and rolled. Claws passed over her head, missing by centimeters. She came up behind him before he could turn around. Her legs wrapped around his thick neck, finding the one spot on his body that had no armor. She squeezed with all her strength. Thrashed wildly. He slammed his back against the wall, trying to crush her. He spun in circles, trying to throw her off, but held on. Her arms locked together and she kept squeezing. "Your species has 2 hearts," she said calmly, even as he threw her against furniture. "But you only have one main blood vessel in your neck. If I block it long enough, your brain will shut down." His movements became slower. His arms dropped to his sides. His eyes started to close. "You have about 3 seconds left," continued. "Do you yield?" He tried to speak, but no words came out. His legs gave way and he fell to his knees. A moment later, he collapsed completely, unconscious but alive. Let go and stood up slowly. Her body ached from being slammed against walls and floors. She would have bruises tomorrow, but she was still standing and her 3 attackers were not. The room was completely silent. Every alien stared at her with wide eyes and open mouths. They could not believe what they had just seen. 3 of the most feared bullies in the barracks had been beaten by a single human in less than 2 minutes. A few minutes later, Academy security arrived. Someone had heard the commotion and called for help. 4 armed guards walked in with weapons ready, expecting to find a dead human and 3 laughing attackers. Instead, they found sitting calmly on her bed, bandaging her wounded arm with supplies from her bag. On the floor around her lay 3 unconscious bodies. "What happened here?" the security chief demanded. He was a species known for their psychic powers. His pale blue skin seemed to glow faintly as he scanned the room. Looked up at him, her face showed no emotion. Her eyes were steady and clear. "Cultural exchange," she said. The security chief blinked. He looked at the bodies on the floor, then back at the human. He opened his mouth to say something, then closed it again. He had dealt with many situations in his years at the academy, but this was new. "They attacked you?" he finally asked. "They tried to teach me the rules of this barracks," replied. "I taught them some rules of my own." The guards took the 3 unconscious aliens to the medical wing. None of them had permanent injuries, had been very careful about that. She had not wanted to kill them. She had only wanted to send a message. That night, the story spread through the entire academy. By morning, every student and teacher knew about the human who had beaten 3 attackers without using any weapons. Some said she must have cheated somehow. Others said humans must have hidden abilities that nobody knew about. But a few students, the smart ones, looked at the security recordings and saw the truth. The human had won using nothing but skill, training, and the kind of calm courage that most species only dreamed about. In her bed that night, stared at the ceiling and thought about her home. She thought about her family back on Earth, about her friends who had told her she was crazy for accepting this mission. She thought about all the humans who would come after her, who would need a path already cleared. She was the first. That meant she had to be the strongest, not because she was naturally powerful, but because she refused to be anything less. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. More aliens would want to test her. More enemies would come looking for the human. She smiled in the darkness. Let them come. The news about spread through the academy like fire through dry grass. Within 2 days, every student knew about the human who had beaten 3 attackers on her first night. The story grew bigger with each telling. Some versions said she had killed all 3 with her bare hands. Others claimed she had used secret human weapons hidden under her skin. A few students said she must be a robot pretending to be human. But the ones who had watched the security recordings knew the truth. They stayed quiet about what they had seen because they were not sure how to explain it. The human had simply been faster, smarter, and more skilled than anyone expected. There was no trick. There was no cheat. She was just that good. Commander was one of the Academy's most feared teachers. He belonged to a species called the. They had pale blue skin and completely white eyes. They could not see with their eyes like most species. Instead, they saw with their minds. They could read thoughts, feel emotions, and even control weaker beings with just a thought. Found in the training hall one morning, she was alone, practicing a series of movements that looked almost like a slow dance. Her body flowed from one position to the next without stopping. It was beautiful and strange to watch. "Human," said, announcing his presence. Without thinking much about it, he reached out with his mind to touch hers. It was something did automatically, like humans might glance at someone's face. He expected to feel fear or pride or maybe anger. Instead, he felt nothing. No, that was not right. He felt something like a wall made of pure darkness, cold, hard, endless. His mental touch bounced off it like light off a mirror. Pulled back so fast that he stumbled. His white eyes went wide with shock. "What are you?" he whispered. Did not stop her movements. She continued flowing through her practice as if nothing had happened. "I am just a soldier," she said calmly. "Did you need something, Commander?" "Those mental barriers," said. His voice shook slightly. "No species without psychic abilities should be able to create defenses like that. How is this possible?" Now stopped. She turned to face him, her dark eyes meeting his white ones. "My people call it compartmentalization. We learn to put our thoughts and feelings into separate boxes in our minds. It helps us stay calm when things get difficult. But that level of control should take decades of training, even for psychic species." Shrugged, "Humans have been practicing for thousands of years. We have had many wars, many hard times. We learned that our minds could break if we did not protect them, so we found ways to make them stronger." Stared at her for a long moment. He was beginning to understand something important. The galaxy had made a mistake about humans. Everyone thought they were weak because they had no claws, no armor, no psychic powers. But humans had something else. They had spent their entire history fighting against a universe that wanted them dead, and they had survived by pure force of will. Over the next few weeks, received many challenges. The Academy had a tradition where students could formally fight each other to settle arguments or prove who was stronger. Usually, new students did not get challenged because they were at the bottom of the ladder, but was different. Everyone wanted to test the human. In her first month, she received 14 challenge requests. She accepted every single one. Her first challenger was unnamed. He was a heavy weapons specialist, bigger even than had been. His arms were like tree trunks, and his armor had been thickened through special treatments. He laughed when he saw the small human standing across from him in the fighting ring. The fight lasted 12 seconds, broke his primary arm in 3 places before he could even touch her. The Academy doctors said he would need 4 months to recover. Her fourth challenger was a blade master named. He was considered the fastest knife fighter in the Academy. His 4 hands could each hold a different weapon, and he had practiced since childhood. He expected an easy victory. took away all 4 of his weapons using only her empty hands. She did not even get cut. Her 7th challenger was a light commander. His name was, and he was famous for his ability to shut down an enemy's body with his mind. He could stop hearts, freeze muscles, and cause terrible pain without lifting a finger. When the fight started, reached into his mind with all his power. For a moment he smiled, certain of victory. Then's fist connected with his face. She had not stopped moving when his attack hit her. Her mental walls had held long enough for her to close the distance between them, fell unconscious before he even understood what had happened. By the 12th challenge, the rules no longer seemed to matter. 3 students attacked her at once, which was against academy law. They thought numbers would make the difference. Put all 3 of them in the medical wing. One had a broken jaw. One had a dislocated shoulder. The 3rd had to be carried out on a stretcher because she had hit a nerve cluster that paralyzed his legs for 6 hours. The academy teachers started watching her more carefully now. Some were afraid of her. Others were curious. A few, like Commander, had begun to respect her in a way they had never respected any non-psychic species. Director called her to his office after her 14th victory. The old sat behind his desk and looked at the human standing before him. She was still small. She still had no claws or armor, but something about her had changed since her first day. Or maybe he was just seeing her clearly for the first time. "You have caused quite a problem," said slowly. "The hierarchy of this academy has worked for 300 years. Students know their place. They understand who is strong and who is weak, but you have confused everything." "I did not start any of those fights," replied calmly. "I only finished them." Made that grinding sound again, his version of laughter. "That is true, and that makes the problem worse. If you had cheated, we could punish you. If you had used forbidden techniques, we could expel you, but you fought fair every time. You simply won." He leaned forward, his face suddenly serious. "The students you beat were not important. They were bullies and fools, but others are watching now. The real powers of this academy, the ones who have never lost to anyone, they see you as a threat to their position." "Let them come," said. "You do not understand. These are not like the others. They have been bred for war, enhanced with technology, trained since birth to be perfect killers. They call themselves the Iron Ring, and they have never been defeated." Thought about this for a moment. 7 unbeatable warriors, 7 perfect killers, 7 enemies who would not underestimate her like the others had. "When will they make their move?" she asked. Leaned back in his chair. "Soon. They are proud creatures. They will not allow a human to continue embarrassing their academy. They will come for you, and they will not stop until you are broken or dead." Nodded slowly. This was what she had been waiting for, not the small fights with angry students, not the easy victories against enemies who did not know what they were facing. This was the real test. This would prove once and for all whether humans deserved their place among the stars. "Thank you for the warning, Director," she said politely. She turned and walked toward the door. Before she left, spoke one more time. "Park, why do you keep fighting? You could have asked for protection. You could have transferred to a different academy. Why do you stay and face every challenge?" Stopped but did not turn around. "Because I am not just fighting for myself," she said quietly. "I am fighting for every human who will come after me. If I run, they will say humans are cowards. If I lose, they will say humans are weak. But if I win, they will have to respect us. That is worth any amount of pain." She walked out without waiting for a response. Sat alone in his office for a long time after she left. In 300 years, he had never met anyone quite like this human, and he was beginning to wonder if the galaxy had made a terrible mistake by ignoring her species for so long. The Iron Ring met in the restricted combat arena 3 nights after Director's warning. This arena was different from the normal training halls. It had been built for dangerous exercises, the kind where students sometimes died. The walls were reinforced with heavy metal. The floor was covered with special material that absorbed blood. Medical teams stood ready at all times. Tonight, the arena was full of spectators. Word had spread quickly through the academy. Everyone knew what was about to happen. The 7 most powerful students in the academy's history were about to face the human who had embarrassed so many others. Sat on a raised platform at one end of the arena. He was a like director, but younger and much more dangerous. His body had been modified with military technology. Metal plates covered parts of his natural armor. His muscles had been enhanced to be 3 times stronger than a normal. Cables ran under his skin, carrying power to artificial systems that made him faster and deadlier than anything nature had created. He had never lost a fight, not once in his entire life. Some whispered that he had killed his own brothers and sisters when he was young, just to prove he was the strongest. Whether this story was true or not, everyone believed it. That was how terrifying it was. The other 6 members of the Iron Ring stood behind him. Each one was a legend in their own right. Was an assassin who had killed 100 enemies before she turned 20 years old. Her 4 arms moved faster than eyes could follow. And were twins who could combine their psychic powers into something truly terrible. Together, they could crush a mind like paper. Was a berserker who felt no pain and never stopped attacking until his enemies were dead. Was a species made of living silicon. His body was harder than steel, and he could survive in the emptiness of space without any protection. The last member was something called her name was Vex, and she was not really one thing. Her body could change between solid and liquid, metal and flesh. Nobody knew what she actually looked like because she was always becoming something new. These were the 7 rulers of the academy. These were the warriors that armies feared. And tonight, they had all gathered for one purpose, to destroy the human who dared to challenge their world. Was brought to the arena by 4 guards. They had come to her barracks and told her she was invited to a meeting. The word invited was a polite lie. She could not refuse. But did not try to refuse. She did not try to run. She walked calmly between the guards, her face showing nothing. When they reached the arena doors, she stepped through without hesitation. The crowd fell silent as she walked to the center of the fighting floor. Hundreds of alien eyes watched her, waiting to see fear or panic. They saw neither. Stood straight and looked up on his platform with the same calm expression she always wore. Park's voice boomed across the arena. You have caused problems since you arrived. You have broken the natural order of this academy. You have made others question the hierarchy that has kept us strong for generations. Said nothing, she just waited. You think you are special because you beat some weak fools, continued. You think humans deserve respect because one small female won a few fights. Tonight, we will correct that mistake. He stood up from his seat and jumped down to the arena floor. The impact shook the ground. Standing at full height, he was nearly 3 meters tall. His shadow fell over like a dark blanket. Full contact, he announced. No rules, no restrictions. The fight ends when one of us yields or dies. A murmur ran through the crowd. Full contact fights were rare. They were usually reserved for blood feuds or matters of serious honor. Using them against a new student was extreme, even by academy standards. Finally spoke. Her voice was soft but carried clearly in the silent arena. Just you or all of you? His metal-plated face twisted into something like a smile. Brave words from such a small creature. Very well. If my ring wishes to join, they may. Behind him, the other 6 members of the Iron Ring moved down from the platform. They spread out across the arena floor, forming a loose circle around. 7 of the deadliest warriors in the galaxy against one human. The crowd could not believe what they were seeing. This was not a fight. This was an execution. Looked at each of her opponents in turn, with his mechanical enhancements, with her 4-bladed arms. The twin psychics with their glowing eyes, the berserker already growling with bloodlust, the living silicon statue, Vex the shapeshifter, her body rippling like water. 7 enemies, 7 different fighting styles, 7 sets of abilities that she had never faced before. She smiled. The crowd gasped. Some thought she had gone insane. Others thought she was trying to look brave before she died. But a few, the ones who had studied her previous fights carefully, saw something different in that smile. They saw confidence. Real confidence, the kind that came from knowing something others did not. Reached up and removed her gray uniform jacket. Underneath, she wore a simple black shirt that showed her arms. The crowd could see now that her body was covered in small scars. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands. Each one told a story of training, of fights, of a lifetime spent learning how to survive. "Let me tell you something about humans," she said. Her voice was still calm, still soft, but it carried to every corner of the arena. "We are not the strongest species. We are not the fastest. We have no claws, no armor, no psychic powers." She raised her fists. "But on our home planet, we hunted animals 10 times our size with wooden sticks. We crossed oceans in boats made of trees. We climbed the highest mountains just to prove we could. We split atoms and walked on our moon while some of your species were still learning to make fire." The Iron Ring exchanged glances. This was not how prey was supposed to act. Prey was supposed to beg for mercy or try to run. This human was giving speeches. "We survive," continued. "That is what we do. No matter what the universe throws at us, we survive, we adapt, we overcome, and we never ever give up." Had heard enough, he raised one massive fist. "Enough talk," he growled. "Now you die." But before he could attack, spoke one more time. Her voice had changed now. It was harder, colder, filled with something that made even hesitate for half a second. "I gave you a choice once back in my barracks. I asked if you wanted this smoke. Your friends said yes, and they learned what that meant." She shifted her stance, her body becoming perfectly balanced. "Now I am asking all 7 of you, do you want this smoke? Because if you come at me, I will not hold back like I did before. I will show you what humans can really do." The arena was completely silent. Nobody moved, nobody breathed. Then roared and charged, and the other 6 attacked from all directions at once. The greatest fight in Academy history had begun. 7 warriors attacked at once. 7 perfect killers who had trained their entire lives for moments like this. Any normal opponent would have been dead in seconds. "Moved." The berserker reached her first. He was fast for a driven mad by battle rage that shut off his ability to feel pain or fear. His clawed hands swept down to tear her in half. But was not there anymore. She had slipped to the side at the last moment, so close that his claws touched her shirt but did not reach her skin. As he passed, she grabbed his arm and pulled, using his own momentum to spin him around. Crashed directly into one of the twins. The psychic had been preparing a mental attack, but the impact broke his concentration. Both aliens fell to the ground in a tangle of limbs. The assassin was next. Her 4 arms blurred as she attacked with blades from every direction. She was the fastest member of the Iron Ring, able to strike 16 times in a single second. No one had ever blocked all her attacks. Blocked 14, she dodged 1. The last blade cut a shallow line across her shoulder. But in exchange, she hit 3 times in spots that human doctors had identified as weak points. Slower arms went numb and dropped their weapons. Before she could adjust, grabbed her upper left arm, twisted, and dislocated the joint with a sound like breaking wood. Screamed and fell back. The silicon creature attacked next. His body was harder than metal, impossible to hurt with normal strikes. He did not even try to dodge as he walked toward. Why would he? Nothing she could do would hurt him. Did not try to punch him. Instead, she pressed her palm flat against his chest and pushed. A strange vibration ran through his body, a frequency that human scientists had discovered made silicon crystals crack. His eyes went wide with shock as cracks appeared across his surface. For the first time in his life, he felt something like pain. He stumbled backward, trying to get away from the human who had somehow found a way to hurt him. Vex the shapeshifter came from behind. Her body had turned liquid, flowing around like living metal. She wrapped herself around the human's body, trying to squeeze and crush. Had prepared for this. She breathed out completely, emptying her lungs. Her chest collapsed inward, making her body smaller. Human on Earth used this technique to survive deep water pressure. It also worked against creatures trying to crush you. She slipped out of Vex's grip like water through fingers. As she escaped, her hand reached into the shapeshifter's liquid body and found something solid in the center, a core processor that controlled her transformations. Pulled. Vex screamed in a voice like grinding gears as her body lost its shape. She collapsed into a pool of silver liquid, unable to reform without her core. 4 down, 3 to go. The twins had recovered and stood together, their white eyes glowing bright with power. They joined hands and attacked Smind with their combined strength. This was different from the earlier psychic attacks had faced. This was 2 minds working as one, pushing into her brain with force that could crush steel. Normal mental walls would have shattered instantly. Stumbled, for one terrible moment, she felt them inside her head, trying to stop her heart, freeze her muscles, shut down her brain. Then she did something no one expected. She screamed. Not in pain, in defiance. She opened every compartment in her mind at once and let the twins see what was inside. 200,000 years of human memory flooded through the psychic link. Ice ages that lasted centuries. Plagues that killed millions. Wars fought with sticks and stones, then swords and guns, then weapons that could destroy entire cities. The twins saw humans dying in countless ways, but they also saw humans surviving, always surviving, getting back up no matter how many times they were knocked down, refusing to give up even when everything seemed hopeless. The weight of all that stubbornness, all that persistence, all that raw refusal to accept defeat crashed into the twins' minds like a tidal wave. Their eyes burst. Blood ran down their faces as their brains simply overloaded. They fell to the ground, unconscious, their minds broken by the sheer force of human will. Only remained. The leader of the Iron Ring had watched his entire team fall in less than 2 minutes. 6 of the deadliest warriors in the galaxy, defeated by a single human. His mechanical systems hummed as rage built inside him. Impossible, he growled. Turned to face him. She was bleeding from several cuts. Her shoulder wound was getting worse. Her body was covered in bruises from fighting 6 enemies at once, but she was still standing. Your turn, she said. Attacked with all his enhanced strength. He was faster than anything his size should be, powered by technology that tripled his natural abilities. His first punch could have put a hole through a spaceship hull. Was not there when it arrived. She had trained her whole life to fight enemies bigger and stronger than herself. Humans had always been small compared to the predators on their planet. They had survived by being smart, by being quick, by never fighting on the enemy's terms. Swung again and again. Each blow shook the arena floor when it missed. Each attack came closer than the last, but kept moving, kept dodging, kept refusing to stand still. She was letting him tire himself out. His mechanical systems were not designed for prolonged combat. They gave him incredible power, but that power came at a cost. The longer he fought at maximum strength, the more his systems heated up. The more they heated up, the slower he became. After 3 minutes of constant attacking, finally started to slow down. Strug. 3 hits to his left arm, targeting the joints where metal met flesh. The arm went dead, hanging uselessly at his side. 2 kicks to his right leg, rupturing the hydraulic systems that gave it enhanced strength. The leg buckled, forcing him to one knee. One palm struck to his temple, the spot where his brain was closest to the surface, hard enough to stun even an enhanced. Swayed on his knees, his mechanical systems were screaming warnings. His body was broken in a dozen places. The most powerful student in Academy history was kneeling before a human half his size. Yield said, roared and lunged forward with his one working arm. It was a desperate attack, clumsy and slow. Caught his wrist, twisted, and used his own weight to flip him onto his back. Before he could move, her foot pressed against his throat. Yield, she repeated. The arena was completely silent. Every spectator held their breath. The iron ring lay scattered across the floor, defeated. The unbeatable warrior was pinned and helpless. For a long moment nothing happened, then slowly spoke. I yield, he whispered. Stepped back and offered him her hand. Stared at it. This human had just beaten him in front of the entire academy. She had destroyed his reputation, broken his team, and proven that everything he believed about strength was wrong. And now she was helping him up. He took her hand. When stood, he towered over like before, but somehow she seemed larger than him now. Not in size, but in something deeper, something that had nothing to do with muscles or weapons or technology. What are you? He asked, the same question that others had asked before. Finally smiled. This time it was a real smile, warm and almost friendly. I am human, she said. We have been asking ourselves that question since we first looked up at the stars. When we figure out the answer, you will be the first to know. She picked up her jacket from the ground and walked toward the exit. The crowd parted before her in silence. Nobody tried to stop her. Nobody said a word. 3 months later, graduated at the top of her class. The coalition offered her command of their most famous fleet. She refused. Instead, she went back to Earth and asked to become a trainer. When they asked her why, she said, there are more humans coming. Someone needs to teach the galaxy what that means. The Academy eventually built a statue to honor her. It showed a small human woman standing with her fists raised, facing 7 fallen giants. The plaque beneath it was translated into 7,000 languages. It said only 3 words. Want this smoke? Years later, when historians wrote about the moment humans became respected in the galaxy, they always pointed to that night in the arena. They said it was when everything changed, when the galaxy learned that humans were not weak at all. They were just getting started.